Should Schools Allow Cell Phones? By Linda Matchin, Globe Staff, June 16 to 2015. Teachers, parents, students, and principals don't agree on much when it comes to digital devices in classrooms, except that more and more teens have cell phones. 88% of American teens ages 13 to 17 have or have access to a mobile phone, and a majority of teens, 73%, have smartphones, according to a Pew Research Center study released in April. 92% of teens report going online daily, with more than half saying they're online several times a day. 24% say they do so, quote, almost constantly. That means all the time. As a result, many schools, teachers, and principals are asking themselves, what should we do about cell phones? Con. Circle the word con right now, and right next to it, reasons people do not want cell phones in school. Circle, reasons people do not want cell phones in school. Many people say that cell phones are distracting, even if kids say they are using them to help with schoolwork. The author of a research study about cell phone use says that, quote, you'll get kids saying, I'll look something up for English, and while I'm here, let me quickly check my Instagram or Twitter feed. And then it's, oh, I never realized this girl said this to me, and now they're distracted and not really paying attention to what they're learning anymore. Put a bracket here. Write reason number 1. Cell phones distract kids from schoolwork or make it hard for them to pay attention. In addition to distracting students, many research studies support the claim that cell phones reduce student test scores. Reduce means that they make them go down. So student scores on tests go down because of cell phones. A study from the London School of Economics looked at 91 schools in 4 cities in England, where more than 90% of teenagers own a mobile phone. The study found that the test scores were 6.41% higher at schools where cell phone use is prohibited or not allowed. The researchers concluded that mobile phones, quote, can have a negative impact on productivity because they distract students, end quote. The study also looked at schools who decided to ban cell phones in 2016 or get rid of them. In the 2016-2017 school year, students who historically struggled with school increased their test scores by more than 14%. Put a bracket here. Reason number 2, cell phones reduce student test scores, or cell phones make test scores go down. Some principals and teachers say that even if cell phones didn't distract students and reduce test scores, they still wouldn't want them in school. We don't want students to just pick up their phone and Google something every time they have a question, said a principal from Ohio. One of our jobs as educators is to help students learn how to think critically, and cell phones get in the way of that. What she means by critically is that teachers are supposed to help students learn how to find answers to their own problems, and if we're teaching kids just to use their cell phones, then we're not doing our job and we're not teaching them how to think critically. Put a bracket. Reason number 3, cell phones get in the way of students thinking critically, or cell phones make it hard for students to find their own answers. Not only are educators worried that students will get distracted or depend on their phones, they're also worried that students might use their phones to cheat. According to a 2009 poll by U.S. News, 1/3 of U.S. teens have used their phones to cheat in class, either by taking photos of the test or texting answers to a question. Even more worrisome is that many students don't view using cell phones to discuss test questions as cheating. Quote, we're just helping each other out, end quote, said a New York City high school student. A recent study confirms this finding that 23% of students do not consider sending questions to their friends as cheating. Put a bracket here. Reason number 4, kids can use cell phones for cheating. Pro. Circle the word pro here and write next to it reasons students should use cell phones at school. Some teachers say that rather than fight the battle against cell phones, teachers should use the technology that students have for schoolwork. At a high school in Florida, science students use a physics app to collect acceleration data and then graph the data. Similarly, students use their phones in math class to help with complicated math problems. English teachers have students discuss the books they're reading in chat rooms on Google Classroom. A school in Florida has high school Spanish students practice language skills by recording themselves speak in Spanish on their iPads and then listening to what they said. Put a box here. Reason number 1, because now we're doing reasons for yes. So reason number 1, students can use their cell phones for schoolwork. Not only do cell phones help students learn, but they also can help save the school money. The average Chromebook costs $300, an iPad costs $600, a MacBook costs $1,200. Many principals say that the school can save money on technology if students are allowed to use their own technology in class. Having access to technology also reduces the amount of paper used in schools, which is good for both the environment and saving money. A study by the University of Michigan found that the average school spends $25,000 on paper every year, not including the maintenance of printers. Some argue that the cost-saving benefits and environmental impact far outweigh the potential issues with having phones at school. Put a block. Reason number 2, cell phones save schools money. Some schools do not allow students to have phones in class, but allow students to use phones in hallways and during lunch. They argue that students might need their cell phones if there's an emergency at school. Sometimes at the end of the day, the office gets 30 or 40 calls from parents asking them to tell their student to ride the bus or remind a student they need to go to a friend's house after school, said a principal at a high school in Florida. It creates unnecessary work for the people who work in the office. It's easier just to let kids have their phones so they can communicate with their parents independently. Put a bracket. Reason number 3, students need phones to communicate with their parents. Students argue that taking away phones from students at school is a violation of their rights. According to a student in Washington, D.C., quote, I have the right to bring my personal property to school. If my family bought the phone with our money, it's a violation of my rights for the school to take my phone away. According to a court in Mississippi, schools do not have the right to look at information on students' cell phones unless it's an emergency. Students worry that if a teacher or principal takes the phone away, they might look at the phone even though it's illegal. Reason number 4. You try and write reason number 4 in your own words. What's the main idea of this paragraph? Some parents advocate for allowing phones at school because they believe it prepares students for life after middle and high school. Once students graduate high school, there won't be regulations saying they can't have a phone. Colleges don't ban cell phones on campus, and most jobs don't require employees to leave their phones at home. One of the jobs of teachers is to help students learn how to use their phones respectfully and wisely in school so that students are prepared for college or future jobs. It's better for my children to learn how to use technology in an environment where they are supported to make mistakes than in an environment like college or a job where there are serious consequences, like failing a college class or getting fired from a job. Put a bracket. Reason number 5. In your own words, what's the main idea of this paragraph? When you're done, go to the top of this paper and write claim. Claim. Schools should allow cell phones, or claim schools should not allow cell phones. You're picking your claim. What do you think? If you think schools should not allow cell phones, put a star by the reason that you think is most convincing. If you think that students should be able to bring cell phones, put a star by the reason that you think is most convincing.